Thank you very much for joining another GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup. It's Monday, 29th of March. We already received spring, so we have some of the flowers here as well. Hello, Robert. Nice to see you. Welcome to our meetup. We just started, so you're just crashing the party at the moment. Welcome. Thank you very much. So another meetup. Today we have a special guest. His name is Alan Fuller. I don't know if you heard of him, but a very nice bloke. And I'm not paid to say that at all. I really think that. What he will be talking to us today is about how can we fight spam and what can be done as a pre-measure in order to save our clients or to save our own business from actually like neglecting it, but not in the fact and the reality is that we didn't know that some certain information came to us. So let's start with first introducing Alan. Alan, thank you very much for joining us today. Tell us something about yourself. Tell us how you actually got into this anti-spam business. What brought you to this business?
Well, some of that is actually in my talk, so I won't give you too much of that away, otherwise I'll be repeating myself. But I started with WordPress about 11 years ago, building websites, and gradually changed to becoming a plugin developer. And one of my plugins is an anti-spam plugin, and we'll be covering that in the talk. I've got a talk which will probably last 20-30 minutes with some slides. I'll go through that, and there'll be some time for questions at the end. Pretty structured. I've arranged it in a fairly structured way. But
that's cool. That's cool. So that means we are totally ready. If you, Robert, I just wanted to actually, before you start, Alan, Robert wrote a very interesting article about spam just recently, and I was reading it. So I asked Robert as one of the spam, junk warriors now. He's not a spam warrior anymore. We said he's a junk warrior. So as he's one of the samurais, yeah, we invited him to join us as well today and to tell his experience. So without further ado, Alan, maybe it's a good time actually that we start this meetup with the presentation and see how we can fight the spam. Thank you very much.
And before I start, I just want to apologize to Robert because I do subscribe to your coffee blog, and but I haven't read that one about spam yet. I don't know if it was in the last couple of days or whatever, but anyway, so I'm just going to share my screen and start the talk. So, spam wars. The war has been raging for more than 2 generations. And actually, you're the next generation of warriors going into battle. So I'm Alan Fuller, as you know, of Fullworks, and today I'll be guiding you through the battlefield of technology in the war against spam that we will actually never win. So put your shields up, your phasers on stun, settle down, and let's start the journey. You can research the history of spam yourselves, but it's important to know that spamming is about money. Lots of money. I'll take you back to 1978, when actually I started programming in 1978. ARPANET sounds rather like Skynet from the Terminator film, was spammed by Digital Computers. They had just developed their VAX computer range, and they sent out one single email, and gained how much? $12 million of orders. So if we fast forward to 1994, a law firm spammed Usenet, another communication network, and reputedly earned $100,000 of new business. So to add insult to injury, they actually wrote a book, How to Make a Fortune on the Information Superhighway. Who calls it Information Superhighway now? I mean, it's like, you know, but that's what it was called in 1994. So any one of you, I'm sure you haven't read that book, because otherwise you'd be very rich and you wouldn't be here listening to my little talk. The genie was out of the bottle. Make a fortune, easy, just become a spammer. And the growth was exponential to where we are today. So that's a little bit of an introduction as to why it's so prevalent. I'm going to take you through three main areas: the real dangers of spam, how spam is created, and the weapons that we have to fight against spam. So the dangers. You may think a bit of advertising is harmless, but that's because most of the advertising world is highly regulated. But if it's unregulated, it can make false claims, be misleading, be fraudulent, or worse. Spam emails can easily be phishing attempts to try and get your credentials. Cleverer and more dangerous are social engineering attempts. That's a whole security subject in itself. And the biggest breaches of fraud come from gaining trust of individuals who have a serious level of access within a technology organization. And that can all start from a cleverly engineered spam email. So those are the really bad guys, the deliberately bad guys. Then there's simply the danger of a loss of important customer information just because you've got so many other spam emails. I think we asked the question in that survey there, have you ever found the spam email from a customer in your folder? What was the score, Madja, on that? Has anyone got spam email?
Sure, I can actually tell you. I mean, from the LinkedIn, you think the LinkedIn?
Yeah.
All right. So from LinkedIn, let me just open it. So I had, how many times a month do you check spam folder or junk folder? Maybe I can just share it for a second if you'd like, so people would see it much better. But I could also, so I was asking them how many times did they check the spam folder. The first question was so we had 72 votes. The first answer was every day, 28%. Every week, at least once, 38%. Once a month, 21%. And if they delete it all without even browsing, it's 14%.
So the headline number there was what, 78% every day, was it?
Every day was 28%.
28%. So 28% of people are wasting a lot of time. And that time is money, and money is cost. Not only that, you've got the running costs to you, the server power that is involved in handling the junk. And also think about the environment. Sustainable technology, I was listening to a presentation not too long ago about sustainable technology. It's a hot topic about optimizing your website so they don't burn so much energy. The internet already creates more greenhouse gas than global air travel. And sources estimate 50% of website visitors are automated bots. And a good proportion of those bots are just creating spam. So stopping some spam in scale will do more for the environment than planting some trees. Okay, moving on to my second point, which is how is it created? Do you like this slide? This is creation of Ebola. I've tried to find something about creation and evil, and I think that pretty much covers it. I'd like to categorize it as three main groups that generate spam. We have bots, we have human assisted bots and we have humans. I think you'll obviously know what a bot is an automated process. And they come in many forms. They come from script kiddies, which are the annoying, non-artistic graffiti-ists of the web. They do it just because they can, and it means that we just have to keep cleaning up after them. And we have sophisticated networks of computers, often self-perpetuating by spawning themselves into other compromised websites. So that's bots. So what is human assisted? Have you ever put capture on a form? I'm sure you probably have, you're all experienced people, and you still get spam. Here, the bots are sending the spam. They get a capture quiz that they can't handle. So they use an API to send that to a human being to solve. And those human beings live in what we call a capture farm. They use cheap labor in low-cost regions to provide human code breakers. Nothing like Bletchley Park and Enigma engines. These are just simple, oh, traffic light, car, done. Typical prices are 50 pence per 1,000 codes broken. Now, the human-generated spam, the third section, I think we all understand that is when a human being types in a message that you're not really interested in. Sometimes there's a whole company of people typing those in to your info@email addresses, and sometimes it's an individual small business and they're trying to get some sales. And we all know what those are. They're normally, I can rank your website better on Google, or can I develop you a new website? And you're thinking, I'm a web developer. I don't want to know that. But to some extent, that's irrelevant because spam is spam. So whether it's bots or humans or human assisted, spam is spam. And bots are trying to look like humans if they can. But it is actually relevant to the methods of detection that we can use. So there are key elements to the methods and the weapons that we have. And again, I'll break that down into the potential points of contact with the enemy, the spammers. Well, not so much the enemy, the spammers, but where they're going to arrive. The points are your email or where it was initiated. So if we look at email, that gets a bit confusing because cloud email is actually email clients and servers combined in many ways. So when we're talking about Gmail or Outlook, it's a little bit blurred. The lines are a little bit blurred because the server and the client are all in the cloud, but the principles are the same. So to start off with, we have server level blocking, and you'll never see server level blocking. It's done at the server. And the client level block, you do see. They're the ones that come into your spam folder that you check for. The first level of server level blocking is often grey listing. Grey listing is a concept which says, I haven't seen an email from this domain before, so I'm going to hold it. And actually, I'm going to reject it. And I'm going to reject it back to the sender and say, sorry, send me that again. if it gets sent back again, then it's taken out of the grey list and it's passed on. That works on the principle, very simple principle, that bad actors don't behave like proper mail servers, and they won't resend, they won't respond to that message, so that we have grey listing in that way. We also have block lists. These are industry curated lists of bad IP addresses. The server can subscribe to one or more of these block lists, and any email arriving from an IP on a list can then be flagged or rejected. The next level of detection is related to the domain information held in your DNS. There are two really relevant bits of information that can be associated to a domain's DNS that is publicly available for mail servers to look up. Sender permitted from, and you'll know that as SPF. It's a simple and effective text rule that lists domains and IP addresses that legitimately can send emails on behalf of the domain. The rules also allow you to tell the server what to do with a match or mismatch, such as accept it or reject it or soft fail it. And then there's domain keys identified mail, known as DKIM. This is more sophisticated as it uses public-private key encryption to ensure that emails are not altered in transit. It really helps spam detection as it makes spoofing of domains, which is common in fraud and phishing spam, very difficult. Although it uses encryption methods, it doesn't encrypt the actual email. So you must still be aware that emails, unencrypted emails, are plain text communication, can be intercepted, and are not secure for sensitive information like passwords. But that email encryption is a whole different subject, and we'd be here all night if we covered all those. So that's DNS level information. The other method of detecting spam are related to the actual message itself. There's the header, and then there's the content. And there are simple checks in the header, like making sure the sender address is also the from address. Anyone who's set up a form with contact form 7 will be aware that that form package gives you a warning if you set those differently. There's also envelope sender, which is something that can be checked in the header. And the content, simply the language used, can be a spam identifier. So it's not quite as simple as it seems, as humans can easily recognize typical spam. But computers, it's actually a lot harder for them to learn what really is spam, but with machine learning techniques and verging into artificial intelligence, it's getting cleverer and cleverer every day. So those covered the methods of detection, but let's just talk for a minute now about a different perspective. If you've got legitimate outgoing email from your website, that can easily get caught up in these spam defenses. Legitimate email, such as password resets, e-commerce orders, quote requests, bookings. And if they get caught up in spam defenses, you may lose business. So understanding the defenses, you can then work out what you need to make sure, to make sure that your critical email gets delivered. And I'm sure a lot of you would have had this, my email keeps going in, my WooCommerce orders end up in spam. It's a very common thing. So tracking back, first of all, get your DNS settings right. The most important is SPF. So that slide there, the postman is delivering, trying to say, well, let's be able to deliver the email. So the most important is SPF. You need to authorize your email, your server, where your website is, as a sender. And this is actually very simple. If we look at the sender permitted from format, it's a DNS text record. And the simplest way is to just authorize the A record, because the A record by definition will point to your server's IP address. But you can be more complex, and this is part of my own SPF record here, where it's authorizing an IP4 address. It's also authorizing some other domains, such as my accounting system, Amazon SES, SendGrid, Google, and Freshdesk, my support system. So it's giving authorization to all those domains and their IP address. And for safety's sake, the A record as well, even though that happens to be the same as the IP4. So, but that probably is the number one thing. If you haven't got your SPF record right, you will likely have things that ended up in spam. And I've seen SPF records where people have literally got a minus all at the end, which means hard fail, and just simply, outlook.com, and then wonder why their email from their servers doesn't get delivered. It says, which basically if it says Outlook and minus all, it says the only thing that can send email is Outlook. So your server will never get delivered. Then you need to get your headers right. Here's an example of a header, and we can see that the to address, and then if we go down to the bottom, we can see the from address, but the reply to address is different. And the important thing is that the from address should come from your domain. Even if you want to use Gmail or Outlook to manage your emails and you want people to reply there, it has to come from your domain. There's no point in it not coming from your domain, given that you've just authorized it in your SPF record. The other thing, a common mistake is to set up your form where the from address would be, in this case, Marion H. Hancock, and that would then be not your domain, and it would fail. Many people actually use off-server solutions. In other words, instead of using the mail within PHP Mailer of WordPress, they will use Mailgun, SendGrid, or an SMTP service. And they actually tend to work very well for many reasons. But from a spam delivery reason, one of the main reasons they work well is they actually force you to set up your SPF and your DKIM, and they handle the header records correctly. So they're good solutions, but you don't always need to use them. The one thing that you can't fix on your own server or your own host is when it's got a bad IP reputation, when it's already in a block list. This tends to happen on low-cost shared hosting. And it's not actually due to the fact that the low-cost hosting is bad, it's due to the fact that there's a lot of websites sharing the same IP address. So the probability of one of those websites sending out spam is quite high. And it's even higher because the lower cost hosting solutions tend to attract people that are less, well, they care less about understanding the security, keeping their websites up to date, etc. So there's more chance of their website being compromised and sending out spam. And a large number, I would say, of reasons why WordPress sites get compromised is so that they can be taken over to be a spam relay. I don't have any figures on that, but it'll be a large number. You can check your IP address reputation and also your SPF and DKM records using many tools. I use MX Toolbox. It's free, it's available, it's very easy to use. And so I recommend, if you're investigating why you're not sending something correctly, to fire up MX Toolbox. One of the things that is a bit tricky to fix on a WordPress install, depending on your host, is sender envelope. Not all hosts add the sender envelope correctly, and WordPress doesn't do it for you. So I discovered that when I moved host one day, and a few years ago, and so I wrote a free plugin. It's available on the plugin repo. Stop WP emails going to spam, and it solves that particular problem. It also checks your SPF records, and it's quite popular. It's got 8,000 installs, and no one has complained, given me a negative review yet. I've got 9 5-star reviews, so it does do the job. Okay, so if you want to send out email without switching over to Mailgun or SendGrid or SMTP and going to spam, it's well worth installing that plugin, because it only takes a couple of seconds and you can check whether it's solved your problem. Finally, if your email is still going to spam, then it's likely to be the actual content itself. And there is a way of checking how spam filters will treat the content. And the tool that I use is mailtester.com, another free tool. It gives you a temporary email, and you then arrange somehow to send the email that you want to investigate to that email address. And then you get a breakdown of the analysis. It's saying it's 10 out of 10, Spam Assassin likes me. It is saying that I'm not fully authenticated there because I don't have a DMARC record. That is a level of validation, but it actually only builds on SPF and DKIM, domain-based message authentication. Basically instructs the mail server to do what to do if SPF and DKIM fail. It also gives you the ability to report back to suspected misuse of your domain. In itself, it won't really help deliverability, but it's worth considering with the objective of reducing fraud. But as you can see, without DMARC, it's mailtester.com is scoring that particular one 10 out of 10. Okay, so that was a bit of a diversion from the main thing, which is to stop or at least reduce incoming spam. So to recap, spam comes from scripted bots direct to your mailbox, other people's compromised websites direct to your mailbox, and web forms on your website direct to your mailbox. The first two, you have to rely on your email servers or your email client or your cloud email solution to deal with. The last one, web forms on your website, is the one that you need to sort out. And here's a problem. You trust your own website, so you can't block it. And there's lots of different ways of that spam getting into your website. It can be contact forms, it can be comments, it can be spam registrations, or any other form that is there available for spammers to take advantage of. But we can't actually do without forms, because forms are what makes Web 2.0. Without forms, a website is just a static brochure document. But you also all know what the solution is. It's an anti-spam plugin. And as mentioned earlier, being a plugin developer, it just so happens I wrote one of those and it actually works pretty well. But wait, I hear you gasp. Why build yet another spam plugin? No, that's not its name. Yet another spam plugin. So just a little bit of very short backstory. I'll go quite fast over this. It starts, as I mentioned, with me discovering WordPress some 11 years ago, learning that I'm not an engineer. I'm sorry, I'm not a designer. I'm not an engineer either. I'm a coder. I'm not a designer. I'm more of a backroom boy. I'm, in car terms, I'd rather tune the engine than do a custom paint job. So I started writing plugins, my first plugin about 8 years ago, but I started writing plugins. And then one day I had an idea. I thought, I know about security. I'll write a security plugin. And I actually spent the best part of 2 years with my head down coding. And I coded out what I class as a minimum viable product for a security plugin, some 24 features. And when I lifted my head and I branded it and I launched, I realized as an indie developer, I couldn't compete with WordFence or iThemes. And people would say, well, why pay you anything for that when I can get great stuff for free from them? And I also realized that it was a very big subject and very fast moving. And as an indie developer, I couldn't keep up with that. I did have some better features, I felt, but you know, that's what everyone thinks, isn't it? But massive subject, too big for a one-person band. Despite that massive disappointment and the massive, well, you can't say it's a waste of time because everything you learn from, don't you? I discovered almost by accident there was demand for an alternative anti-spam solution, amazingly, because it's another market that has the grip of some pretty established tools, the big one being Akismet. But fortunately for me, there's not a lot of love for Jetpack and the way that Akismet is part of Jetpack. And there are enough people that are not happy with that. And also for comments, well, for any spam, Akismet is not free. People think it is because it comes with the free version of WordPress, but it is not free for probably 99% of websites. Free keys are for personal, non-commercial sites only, no exceptions. If your site has advertising or affiliate links, sells products or services, solicits donations or sponsorships, or is in any way related for a for-profit business or educational organization, your site is considered commercial. Non-compliance will result in immediate termination. It's not free. And the starting price is $60 per site per year, which is actually quite expensive. So armed with the demand I extracted my anti-spam element that I'd already developed into the security plugin into a standalone plugin. And I created a basic free plugin to attract users and a pro version with some cleverer stuff in it, put it that way. That cleverer stuff includes some machine learning software that runs on a server that I manage, and also does fully automatic integration to the major forms packages, which makes it very easy to turn on. So after the 15 months of launch, that launched it 15 months ago, it now integrates to comments, of course, to WP registration forms, to WooCommerce registration forms, to Gravity forms, to Contact Form 7, WP Forms, WP Forms Lite, Caldera Forms, Quick Contact Forms, and Quick Event Manager. And as I get demand, I'll add further integrations where possible. Can't integrate the Divi Forms because it's got no hooks in it at all. Whilst it works out of the box settings, turn it on, install it, it works. There is a level of granularity and control. I can put in controls so you can decide whether you got bot spam protection or comments or forms, turn them on, turn them off. Blacklist checking, human spam checking, putting in the level of certainty on the machine learning score that comes up for the spam filter, and also some reporting so that you can understand what that it's actually working, basically. So here we see it's actually off one of my blog sites, but here we can see that Gravity Forms had 181 bots, comments had 570 bots. So you can see there's a lot there that gets filtered out. Of course, the human spam element, so and to some extent the blacklist one, it's quite important that you still, like your email spam queue, you still need to check, because there's still a possibility that the wrong thing has been caught. Ham instead of spam, they say. But as you can see on this statistics, only 4 out of 758 are ones that you may want to consider looking at. So that's my anti-spam product. So just as a pitch as to why it's better than Akismet, it's far cheaper for a proper licensed version. It's not part of Jetpack. It's more environmentally friendly. Only human spam is actually sent to the server. So the worst bot spam is stopped beforehand. So 95% less spam gets transmitted to a server for analysis than it does, say, in Akismet, which transmits everything. So all that traffic going backwards and forwards for checking doesn't happen with my plugin. So it is kinder to kittens and puppies, as well as polar bears. And the form integration is automatic and has got a very broad coverage. So I would ask you if you would please visit fullworks.net for any further information, and there's a full 14-day trial that you can use there. So I'm coming to the end of my talk now. You say, thank God for that. Spam is all about big money. Spam is extremely dangerous to your business in many ways. If you sort out your own email factors, you won't get caught in spam traps. There are lots of tools to help you. And Fullworks Anti-Spam is, of course, the best for WordPress. So with that, let's open up for some questions.
Wow, this was amazing. I mean, I really love the critical approach of what needs to be done and why it needs to be done. So I'm so eager. I will not start with my questions yet, but I'm eager to hear. Let's hear Robert. Robert, you're there on the screen. I can see you. Tell me what you think, and do you have any questions? Or
I'm already put on the spot.
yeah,
Alan, thank
exactly.
you so much. That was fantastic. Um, I started laughing as soon as you mentioned script kiddies early on in the presentation. Because, well, yes, script kiddies exist. Um, you talk a lot about, preventing it, in the great scheme of things and what people can do, to make sure that, SPF compliant, DKIM, DMARC, all the wonderful acronyms. Can can we be just sending better emails in general? I mean, if we avoid all the weird referral links inside emails, uh, will that help the problem?
Help it in which way? Uh, sure. I mean, are you saying should we as a community be better behaved about the way that we market ourselves, or
Yes, that's exactly the point.
that's a big issue because email is a very effective marketing tool. Um, if you have engaged existing customers, you're going to earn more business in a cheaper way by using email than practically any other mechanism. So using email responsibly is a very important business tool. The issue that I have in being able to even answer your question in any meaningful way is at least 5% of the world is bad. So, and with technology and the power of technology and the engines that are available, those bad people will carry on being bad. And I don't have a solution apart from it. It's an ongoing battle. One of my first plugins that I wrote, which actually stops user enumeration, and one of the reviews there was a 3-star review, and he said something like, "It doesn't do this," which I fixed, by the way. But his comment was, like, it is a never-ending battle against the bad guys, and we can be more responsible, but if there's still 5% of bad people, there's still 5% of bad people.
Sure. And sorry to take over there for one more sec, Maya. I look at how, for example, I do advertising within my newsletters. It's it's not filled with links. It's just some sponsorship text that's embedded within that email. It's never going to set off a spam filter unless, I write Viagra with, you know, ones and fours inside of that. And I think that has, it's I think it's a little bit more honest about what's going on. But B, I think it's just not going to set off spam filters because it's not filled with affiliate links and, question mark UID equals blah 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 all over the place. Yeah, I think if we're a bit more honest about how we're sending out email and sort of maybe changing what the advertising model is, we might all be better off. And
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
that's my thinking, the way I go at it, and I think that's the story that kind of drove Maya to.
I think from your perspective, yes, if the best way to avoid spam filters is to be honest, and to have genuine content that is, and my email marketing tool has a way of tracking link clicks, but I actually turned that off because some people were coming back to me and saying, why is there this hidden URL underneath this link? And I thought, well, I don't really need to know if they're going to click from that email, yeah, okay, it will help me slightly understanding the engagement of that. But to be frank, I would rather not understand it than to have someone upset by the fact there's a hidden link.
Yeah, I think most people who send out emails just want to know in a gross scale, how many people open. What's my open percentage
Yeah.
versus do I really care that Alan specifically saw it, or that Maya saw it, or Olga saw it, or Bill saw it? And I think the more we kind of sort of reset our idea of what valuable metrics are, we'll actually be nicer and kinder to people who are receiving emails, therefore, upping the benefit of actually sending out emails.
Yeah, but you're the good guys. you're you're part of the good guy team, But there's the people with the black hats riding around, with the and they'll always be there
For
because
sure, no argument.
it's all about the money.
But it may become easier to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah. If the good guys are, I get your point now. If the good guys are better, then the bad guys are more obvious.
That's exactly it. If the good guys are, I'm going to say gooder in this case, then yeah, then you can. It's much more easy to determine what is really junk.
Yeah. So perhaps we should start a campaign to make the good guys gooder.
Yes.
That's awesome. Let me ask one of these good guys, which is Robert. Robert, you've been certified as a good guy. How many times a month do you open your junk or spam folder to check for some lost email or perhaps important?
I check once a week. So it's usually on the weekend. I'm like, okay, I should probably go through my spam folder to see if I missed anything.
So you don't need the trigger, like somebody tells you, I sent you an email and you're like, no, I didn't get it. I did never get. So you don't need the trigger. This is something what you do often, right?
Once a week, if it's obviously something that's an emergency that got dropped spam, I'll get that trigger as you're saying it. But once a week seems to cut it. I could certainly not wait a month because that would just be too much spam to even sort through. That just would not be possible. But on a daily basis, if you need to go get a hold of me, there are probably 3 or 4 different ways that you can get me. That if it's really urgent.
Anyone else would like to join our discussion? I also have a question, like how many, okay, now we have at least one question. How many times a month does Robert open an email? And my second question to any one of you is last time when you saw your junk or spam folder, how many spam messages you actually saw? Is it thousands or it's hundreds or it's tens? How does that work? Let me see if somebody would like to join. Sumant, are you there? Rade, Joel, Mr. Morricone.
No questions.
No questions, but I have a question for you. How many spam messages you have in your folder now? Can you say it?
Hundreds and hundreds. I have lots of rules to sort them into various folders. I look at them once a day and skim it in 2 seconds, highlight and delete it, all of them.
Oh, okay, so you're browsing through them. I just have a question also for any one of you here. Is like, have you ever bought anything from those messages? I never bought anything from an email that comes as a spam or I find it there. First of all, because I'm afraid to even press any of the links. I'm more happy if I do it from my phone because I don't think there is a virus on that not so many viruses have been developed for the phone. But if I press it from my business computer, something happens. I don't want to do that. So Rade is saying that he has 8 messages in the spam at the moment. Rade, you're a very healthy and happy guy. Usually I get that in an hour. So if I don't check my my junk folder for like a week, there's like hundreds of messages. Oh, you clean it once a week. Well, then you're very good. Your address is not known yet. Lucky you.
I have 12 for today right now. I just checked.
I'll tell you in a second what's my current score. And I was cleaning yesterday. 44, lucky number.
Another question to Alan. What do you think about, and this ties into what Maya just said about, I don't even want to click on the email. I have all images not loading on all my email clients. And I'm hoping that, sometimes I just need to check and it's written just good enough or well enough that I might want to click on it, but having images turned off always makes me feel a lot better.
So your question is?
Should we all do that?
Yeah.
As we
I don't, but then I use Gmail, well, G Suite or Google Works or whatever it is now, and I'm fairly happy that that any images are coming through are not going to impact me negatively. But if I had an email client on a PC, a Windows PC, I would definitely have them turned off. I wouldn't want to have any embedded nastiness in emails from images coming.
It's not even about the embedded nastiness. It's just because having images turned off prevents any tracking in the first place, because that's how,
yeah, of course. Yeah, the single pixel is not going to be tracked as well. Yeah, but why don't it be tracked?
No, I haven't. Well, my reason for turning off images, it's not about the tracking per se. It is when it's spam, because obviously that turns it into a live available email address for them. But there are sometimes so many images in an email that it just slows down the experience. And
yeah,
I started doing it back, on mobile, a decade ago, just to be able to look at my email more easily.
Yeah, a lot of the work that I do needs images because it's screenshots of things and coming backwards and forwards and things. So I don't turn my images off for because it doesn't slow. I don't find it slows anything particularly down. So personally, I know people do it. It's not something that I've done personally. And definitely I would be having to turn it on all the time. And I'm just looking at my email box now and looking through and thinking, there's actually hardly anything in there with images that I don't want. But I would say this, and I've discovered this from my own email marketing. Fancy HTML markup emails with images and everything else is a complete waste of time. I think that's a marketing person's idea that they can get their brand across and everything else. But the most honest, straightforward, plain text email seems to be the ones that get read and understood and actioned on. Hi, I'm Alan. I developed this plugin that you're using. If you've got any questions, please contact me at support@. They get read. And I've tried having like HTML format ones, and they don't get read, they don't get action. People just look at them and it's a bit like banner ads. Banner ads, in theory are great on the top of websites, and you can earn lots of money from it. No one ever looks at them, no one ever clicks on them. Complete waste of time. So don't do HTML, don't do fancy hidden links, just plain simple communication.
Calibri 10.
I'm sorry.
No, say.
Oh, I was just going to say, back to the honest email.
True, and Calibri 10 or Verdana 12, and you're ready to go. No other, let's say, cosmetic is required. But I have another question for you, Alan. There is a number of web developers who are actually maintaining both the website and the mail server for their clients. And sometimes it happens for some reason, like that the inquiries from the customers, let's say it's a fashion. Now I see Lisa is here, so I'm thinking of a fashion online shop. So sometimes customers would like to ask some questions and they have a form where they can ask the question, and then this question goes and it never gets into the mailbox. Is there anything particular that website developers, maintainers of website, let's say like that, people who are doing this as a service, is there something that they should like be aware of, that of things that are happening, and how a web developer can improve the actual experience of a client who is having and living on this online shop?
I mean, apart from what I covered earlier in terms of the SPF, the DKIMs, making sure your content is decent and your headers are right, and your IP reputation, that will get your email delivered. I'm not sure I can think of anything else at this point. I'm sort of chip in.
Sure.
And got any other ideas, Robert? You're
I mean, cover the bases. SPF, DKIM, DMARC. Um, That's just phase one. You have to do that. I think that, how do I put this without actually giving any useful information? Good content is good content. If you're a web maintainer and there's stuff that's not getting to you, I think it's probably incumbent upon you to have a workflow that supports that. So, heck, the hub at GoDaddy Pro. I mean, you can see messages and stuff internally there. You can set up, redirects through Zapier that provide you that content in an alternate route in case, your direct route is failing. I think there are tools, and especially if you're doing support, you should have redundancies so you don't miss out on what if customers are trying to get. If they're trying to get to you, you need to have more than one way for people to get to you, and monitor those.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and experience has told me in other businesses, if you're sending out an important email communication to a client, like a quote or proposal, is you have to follow it up, not aggressively, but like just in a way to check that they actually received it. And in practice, I've found that an SMS message as a follow-up, just a simple one, did you receive the email? Just checking that it didn't go into spam. SMS messages seem to get read. They seem to, that people don't ignore them. They may not respond or whatever, but they seem to get read. So that's quite your point about a secondary method that isn't email is the extended solution, isn't it?
Yeah, and that could be as simple as some kind of website dashboard that you're checking in on an hourly basis, or something that's forwarding it to your Slack channel. I mean, you need that redundancy, especially for anything mission critical, and I think any kind of support and maintenance is mission critical.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I have a problem with my support ticket. My support system now has decided to put some things into spam, and that is really bad. Because then you get customers going, hey, you haven't responded for me for 3 days. You're normally responding in an hour, or whatever. And it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't check my spam folder on my support system, which is a pain.
Olga has a question. Actually, first of all, it has a statement that on Gmail, spam folder is blocking the images. She spent so much time making this special email layouts. Why there are so many different parameters, and can they just stay with one universal text in DNS, or it looks ridiculous to have so many things there? So do you have an experience with this issue?
It's a shame we can't hear you, Olga, because I know you've got problems with your sound according to the chat. So when you say you're making so much time doing special email layouts, are you actually developing marketing emails with in HTML and that sort of thing? And then Gmail is saying, yeah, I'm going to, yes, for clients. Yeah, and clients pay, but they're probably wrong to want it, because they will end up either unread or in spam folders, which is it's a bit of a shame. But it's a bit like sliders on websites, you know, image rotators. It's a marketing department's dream to have a slider with different offers and everything else on it, yet users don't want them. Yeah, I can see for the fashion industry, yeah, you've got sliders as well, Olga. I can see why, because it's all about the visual aspects. I'm afraid you just got to push them towards social media for that, Instagram and everything else. So that's where pictures belong. They don't really belong in emails, do they? Emails are asynchronous text communications, and you can add to them, but hey, Lisa's gone. Good, thank you, Lisa. So yes, yeah, that is a tough one, but I think that for pictures, social media is where it's at, isn't it?
I agree. So is there, before we move to a mixed combination of topics, okay, so Olga's writing, so we need to see. Okay, Olga is, hi Olga, here are our hands too. So I also just wanted to ask you, I mean, you've shown us the historical path of spam industry, if I can call it like this, or junk industry, how it started with the book, with the idea. So somebody had an idea, shared it with others, and it just boom, exploded. So how do you think the spam is going to look in future? More and more we're moving online. I'm getting more emails than ever before. There are so less contact with people. So does that mean that the spam will somehow be, let's say, tailor-made, or perhaps it will just stay aggressive as it is and just come in waves as a profit-making tool instead of tool making some connection, bond, understanding, sharing some knowledge?
Yeah, the problem is the bad guys, and okay, there are the Nigerian prince has left you £50 million, and we all know those are just complete rubbish. But when they start to get really clever and really focused and really convincing, that's when it starts to get dangerous. And there will be an element that is getting cleverer and getting more convincing, and the rubbish is just rubbish, and it's just annoying rubbish. And why doesn't it go away? Because it's not going to work, is it? But it's just like annoying rubbish, and what can you do about it apart from just keep sweeping it up?
Yeah, we have a question from Rade. How artificial intelligence is used for smarter spams? Do you have knowledge about that?
Only a little bit. In terms of generating smarter spam, well, it'll just be looking at the patterns of success, really, and tracking those. I would think, and I'm only guessing here, that if you were going to use artificial intelligence to improve your spamability, you would have a feedback loop of some form or another that is testing an approach and then modifying that approach, and then testing that approach and modifying that approach. That's certainly how if I was a bad guy, I'd be thinking about using it.
So if I can visualize what we spoke about today is like two humans, one on each side of the computer, two armies of plugins, one plugin army on one side and one plugin army for anti-spam on the other side. And both of them like sending bots and emails. And so we have a war of machines. So basically we're not involved, but the machines are actually involved in both sending the messages and then as well receiving the responding.
Yeah, most of the war is a war of machine. It's a bit like Skynet of Terminator. And as I said at my beginning of my presentation, this is a war we will never win.
Yeah, that was a very depressing thing, what you said at the beginning. I was like, man, wait, no, we have to win this war. Why do you think we cannot win? Because of the pace of the development, or what's the reason?
It's the same reason that medicine will never defeat all viruses, and we know how that is panning out at the moment, and then the mutations and everything else. And I'm just amazed how a virus has that intelligence in it, that artificial intelligence system in such a small thing to constantly be testing and feedback looping to work out what is its most effective way of dealing with things. And that's exactly how I'd see artificial intelligence and spam working, just like the real life medical problems that we're fighting today.
To take Alan's analogy just one step further, though, I think there is also herd immunity. If enough servers know what that spam is, then we're all of a sudden blocking a lot more of the disease. If there could be more communication among websites and having clearinghouses and hosting companies, and I know they're already out there, and I'm sure Alan knows all of them by name. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but the more of that communication that happens on the defensive side, it's then easy when you notice, variant B of, I have developer spam. It's easier to spread out and start blocking right away.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Do we have any more questions related to this topic? Sumant, Bill, Rade, Predrag, Jiva, Joel, anyone, Olga? If you guys have any questions, please do so. In the meantime, I will also inform you. Yeah, thank you, Rade. I will also inform you that our next meetup is going to be on 12th of April. 5th of April, next Monday, is actually the Easter for the Catholic part of the church. So I will take this opportunity to wish you a happy Easter. And I hope you guys will be actually spending more time with your family in a nice sunshine and sunny weather. So that's a gift from us. I wish you sun and love, lots of it. Also, you might be, as you have already registered to our platform, we're going to be moving to a different type of baby platform. So you might be asked for additional credentials to be inserted in the following days. I will also put here in the chat the link to the event, to the next event, because it's going to be hosted on a different platform. So you might just want to check it out. So you know that this is, from now on, we're going to be using this portal for events. So we're sorry to actually drive you left and right, first this and now that, but this is an improvement that we're trying to do actually, and safety-wise for all of us. So this has been another meetup. Alan, thank you very much. I feel much more confident to get my knife and actually go and fight the spam. So just after we finish this conversation, I will read through all of my spam emails, because sometimes there is also some emails like that I'm supposed to read those through. I will also ask you this, as this is going to be recorded, we're going to post this on YouTube, and later on we will share the link when it's posted. Thank you very much for your time. We took a significant amount of time tonight from you, but I believe that we have also given you the value in learning new things. If you have any questions for Alan, please reach out. Alan is also on Twitter and both on LinkedIn and all these networks, and he's very accessible and answering his emails in 3 minutes. Okay, so if it reaches his inbox, it's there in the response in 3 minutes. I hope you guys will be able to actually try the plugin that Alan and his son have actually created. And let's support the small companies, and let's hear from you next time. Next time we will be talking 12th April. We'll be talking about best marketing tools for your business. So we're continuing in the content and marketing part. Thank you, Sumant. It was really nice to see you too. So join us if nothing else to do. I think that some workout and perhaps walking outside would be great for the guys who are continuing with the days. And for us, we're closing the day, we're starting our dinner, we're going to get some calories. So, so thank you very much. And I hope to see you next time. See you.
Bye.
See you. Bye, Rade. Bye, Jeep.
Bye, bye, and
Thanks.
thank you for everything. It was
More
great.
than welcome. More than welcome. Thank you.